This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us live at WZRD Justice Jesse G. Reyes, Illinois Appellate Court Judge. Welcome, Justice Reyes, to WZRD.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
It's a
you're
pleasure
welcome.
to be here.
You're welcome. First of all, Justice Reyes, could you tell us a little bit about your career as a lawyer, as an attorney, as a judge, and then finally as a justice?
Sure. So I graduated from John Marshall Law School, which is now known as University of Illinois College Law, UIC Law.
Mhm.
And uh, I had started out working in a plaintiff's firm, doing plaintiff's personal injury and workers' comp,
Mhm.
and then proceeded to work at the Corporation Counsel's office. At the time, I was fortunate to work under the Harold Washington administration,
Mhm.
and was hired by James Montgomery, who was the Corporation Counsel at the time. And so I started working in the Corporation Counsel in the torts division, handled matters where the city was being represented for 50,000 and over, which was pretty substantial, mostly all cases in law division. And then later on, was moved up to the special litigation division at the time, it was referred to, which we handled matters that where the city was in possible liability of $1 million or over. So I had an opportunity to try cases in state court and in federal court. Handled arbitrations and mediations as well. Most of the cases that I handled were jury trials. And I served at the Corporation Counsel office for a number of years before going over to the Board of Education. And at the Board of Education, I was assigned the task of handling policy and reform issues pertaining to Board of Education. It was very interesting at that time because a lot of the work that I was able to accomplish, you could actually kind of see it in fruition. A lot of times it's a litigator, you try a case, and then later on maybe it gets appealed, and you don't really get to see the complete process of your efforts till some years down the road. But at the Board of Education, we implemented a variety of different programs that we were able to see come to fruition. One of them that I'm very proud of was the expulsion process. Prior to our developing the expulsion process that actually is still in existence today, the principals were the ones that determined who was going to be expelled and for what reason they would be expelling the students from the school. One of the problems with that is there was no consistency. One principal might have a certain type of format, another one. So we decided that it was important that there be consistency in terms of how someone would be expelled from the school, why they would be expelled, and to make sure that we had a hearing. So that's what we did. We set up a process where the student would have an opportunity to present their side as well. If they wanted to be represented by counsel, they could be represented by counsel as well. And then, of course, the school that was seeking to have the student expelled would present their case. And then we would have a hearing officer who would hear over the matters at that time. At the time when we started the expulsion process, we had an attorney by the name of Frederick Bates, who is now a circuit court judge, and he did an excellent job for us in terms of conducting the hearings. So that was just one of the initiatives that I was able to be involved in terms of setting up through the policy and reform section of the Board of Education. There are many others, but that was one of my proud moments. So from the Board of Education, then I had an opportunity to run for associate judge. Associate judges are the ones that were elected by the circuit court judges. That is a process now that it's being phased out. So it really no longer exists. But at the time, you would submit your credentials to the Board of Education. I'm sorry, to the bar associations,
Mhm.
and then you would submit your information. Also, eventually, if you were found qualified by the bar associations, then you would submit it to the Chief Judges Committee, its executive committee that he established for that purpose. Then you would be evaluated by the presiding judges in the Circuit Court of Cook County, and if you passed grade through them, then you would be put on what's known as the short list. And short list was always 2 times what was needed. In the year that I ran, there was a vacancy of 18. So there was 36 of us that were running. And then eventually I was one of those fortunate ones that was selected to serve as an associate judge. And I served as an associate judge for a number of years. But one of the things that I did when I started out as an associate judge, actually the first day after we got sworn in, I told our presiding judge that if there's anybody that died, retired, was called in sick, or went on vacation, and they needed somebody to fill in, that I'd be more than happy to do so, and I did. And they took me up on that, and so for a number of years, I had my robe in the trunk, traveling from one branch court to another, not knowing where I was going to be. But it was a great opportunity to learn a lot, to sit in a variety of different assignments, judicial assignments, and to get to know the system pretty well, and then also to get to know the various judges as well that I got to work with in the circuit court.
Were there many other associate judges that took initiative like you did?
That I know of, no. There were some that were called to go to other assignments, and that's what would happen. But the fact that I took that initiative, as far as I know, during my time anyway, as an associate judge, I believe I was the only one.
Mm-hmm. And when you were a judge at the John Marshall Law School, what prepared you that you figured that prepared you the most from the law program for stepping into all these roles?
John Marshall Law School, at the time when I was there, and I believe they still continue this, they believed in the Socratic method, which meant that you would either, when you volunteer to answer a question to the professor, or the professor called on you, you were required to stand up, you were required to answer the question, and then the professor would proceed to ask you further questions with regards to the issue that they wanted to have the class address. So, and the professors were quite rigorous in terms of making sure that you were prepared for class. If someone wasn't prepared for class, they were asked to go back upstairs to the library, and spend the rest of the class in the library. So the academic rigor at John Marshall prepared me for practice of law. Also, it was a school of a great opportunity. I had to work while I was going to school, and so I was able to go to school and then also work at the same time, because they were very flexible in terms of the schedule. Sometimes I was taking classes in the afternoon. Some of the classes I might have been taking in the evening.
Were you working at the John Marshall as well?
Well, later on, I did work at John Marshall. I was a research assistant for a number of professors. One who later on became a dean, Dean Johnson. I was a research assistant for another one who later on became a dean, Professor John Corkery. And then Michael Sang. So I did do some research work for them, and I was working at the school at the same time.
Is it that all law schools use the Socratic method for teaching?
No, not all do. Some do, and some do not. Some proceed through lecture. The professor will be lecturing to the students. I enjoyed the Socratic method because it did make you think on your feet, which is sometimes what you have to do as a practicing lawyer. As a practicing lawyer, sometimes a judge or the opponent will raise something, and you have to think on your feet and be able to respond and come back with an answer with regards to the question. So I think that prepared me very well for that.
How did you get your foot in the door to work in the Harold Washington administration? Was it one of your professors or?
No, I volunteered when Mayor Washington was running for mayor,
Mm,
and then I got to know some people in the administration once he became mayor. And when I started working at the law firm where I was getting doing plaintiff's work and workers' comp, I wasn't. It was a great experience, and you know my boss is a good boss, but I wasn't getting the trial experiences that I wanted.
mhm,
So I happened to mention to one of my friends that I wanted to look around, and I was thinking about looking around, and he said, "Well, you know, why don't you apply to Court Counsel's office?" And I
mhm,
said, oh, "Okay," not thinking that you know because I worked on the campaign that I was going to get a job, but it didn't occur to me. So I did apply, and then at that time there was a three-tier process where you had to go through three different interviews, submit your credentials,
mhm,
and then eventually then you met the corporation counsel, and you know you got to talk to him, and then he would make the final decision.
mhm,
So I was quite you know I was quite happy that I got the opportunity because it
mhm,
was a great opportunity, and I did enjoy working at the corporation counsel's office
mhm,
because at the time when I joined Mr. Montgomery wanted to turn the Corporation Counsel's office into a litigation boutique. There was going to be just people who were interested in doing litigation.
mhm,
And as a young lawyer who was interested in doing litigation, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. This
mhm,
is, you know, so it just so happened that you know the kind of worlds kind of aligned at that time,
mhm.
and I was
For
very appreciative of that opportunity.
for associate judge, you said that before they were it was the judges were selected. Is it now going to be an elected office?
Yes, gradually, when associate judges retire, there's going to be an opportunity for the individual who wants to fill that vacancy that they'll run for the position.
Mhm. And also, when you were at law school, you were working as well. Did you handle your money well? And then also because the reason I ask is that I heard that at some law schools they don't have enough financial literacy in the curriculum that would help the lawyers and help the young students apply financial literacy to everything else that they're learning.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the time when I was there, we did have an accounting class.
Mm,
It was a required course that we had to take in the event that you were going to open up your own office. And it did provide you an opportunity to kind of learn a little bit further how to manage your funds and how to manage money.
mhm,
But you know, things are tight when you're a law student.
mhm,
You have a lot of expenses that you don't anticipate and don't realize,
mhm,
and then you know you also have your loans that you have to pay back.
mhm,
But that was you know one of the reasons why I decided to establish this foundation called the Diversity Scholarship Foundation.
mhm,
Having come from a blue collar neighborhood, blue collar family, the son of an immigrant, you know, I had decided that if I ever got to be where I wanted to be in life as a lawyer, that I would create this foundation, or well, not necessarily create the foundation, but to give back to the community.
mhm,
And so one of the things that I did was establish this foundation, and it's been in existence for a number of years, and we've been able to give out scholarships every year to about 20 students a year, and we've been averaging about $100,000 every year to the students who are recipients of our
mhm.
scholarships.
So you have donors that donate the funds for the scholarships?
Yes, so we have a committee that goes out and solicits funds for the dinner. We have a dinner every year. This year actually it's going to be on January 18th, or I should say next year, January 18th. And so we also have the assistance of the bar associations. The various bar associations also support us
Mhm,
because we in turn support them during the year when, say, like for example, the Asian American Bar Association is going to have a scholarship dinner. Then we sponsor their dinner,
mhm,
and they in turn then return the favor and they sponsor our dinner
mhm,
every year. And we also help them in their the various bar associations in their efforts to help promote diversity and inclusion. We came up with this idea about the Diversity Scholarship Foundation because we saw that there was a lack of diversity in the profession, and we felt that there was a need to address it. And one of the ways we thought that we could address it is by providing scholarships to young people to help them through school. Because at the time, in the early 2000s, some of them were starting, but they weren't able to complete their legal education. And part of the reason was because of financial means of finishing up school. So we decided that then we would help them by establishing this foundation. We started out in the Chicagoland area. Then we expanded it to Cook County, state of Illinois, and now we do it throughout Illinois, through all the law schools in Illinois, as well as Wisconsin and Indiana. So we help out students in those 3 states. Eventually, maybe we'll increase and we'll go beyond that. But at this point in time, that's what that's where we're at with the foundation.
Yeah, thank you for that. Maybe later you could give us some contact information for that, and then
Sure. Yeah,
our listeners could apply. You are running against the incumbent who was selected to serve 2 years, the remaining term of Illinois Supreme Court Justice Ann Burke. What do you bring to the position that is separate from the incumbent's experience?
Well, the person who's in there now is not necessarily the incumbent. It was by appointment, serving as you mentioned the rest of the 2 years. So that individual hasn't been elected to that position, so they're not in terms of incumbent, not incumbent.
Oh, it was just a matter of speaking. Like she would have 2 years experience in the position.
Right. So I bring number one a progressive, active approach to creating access to justice, to solving problems, to help administer various means of creating a courtroom for the people. And an example of this is when I was an associate judge. We noticed that I noticed that there was a number of people who were coming through the court system that didn't really understand what was going on. They sometimes were pleading guilty, and you could tell that maybe they weren't aware of what they were doing, right? So we went to the supervising judge of traffic court and then the chief judge and indicated that there had to be some means of providing some information to them, educational information. I along with others came up with this program. We established a DVD to provide information to individuals who were not English speaking, and bringing them an awareness of what goes on in traffic court, what are the fines and fees that they have to pay if they plead guilty to a cause, and then their rights, what their rights were. So the programs was started in Spanish. Then later on it was developed into to Polish.
How did the DVD get out into the community?
Well, the DVD was produced. The Spanish DVD was produced, and then the Secretary of State was very helpful. Who was Jesse White at the time, was very helpful in distributing it throughout the various offices in the state, the Secretary of State's offices in the state. And then also what a lot of people don't realize is the Secretary of State is also in charge of the libraries. And Secretary of State made sure that the DVD was distributed in the libraries. And then in some of the offices throughout the state, they actually ran the DVD while people were waiting in line to get their driver's license.
That would be the most helpful, I think.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then they did the same thing in the Polish version, and then we did one for the young people, and it was more like a rap version. So we tried to do it in a way so that it would draw people's attention. And then the various Latino television stations here, like Univision, they ran it during their high rate week. And played it on the station so people could see it,
like a PSA,
right? Like a PSA, and so people were able to see it that way, and we were able to get that message out.
Did you find that afterwards in the courtroom, the defendants seemed to be more knowledgeable about what they were doing?
They did. They did. It did appear that they did have an effect. Unfortunately, it hasn't been updated. So I think that would be something that maybe, we should look to do down the road and update it, because the DVD was very specific in saying, okay, you're going to have to pay this kind of fine, this kind of fee, so on and so forth. So I think it still needs to be updated. But that was just one example of something that I did that I saw that, excuse me, that needed to be corrected. When I was a circuit court judge, I went around the county during the foreclosure crisis and informed people of their rights, what they needed to bring to court if they were being summons to court for a foreclosure process case. And then we also did informational messages, PSAs to the public as well, in a variety of different languages.
Were those PSAs played on radio stations, or?
Yeah, they were played on radio stations, and some of them were played on some of the ethnic radio stations, because a lot of the people that were affected were not only people that only spoke Spanish and Polish, but other languages as well. And so we made sure that that was distributed as well. And then one of the problems that we had was that there was a lot of cases to review, and there was a limited number of judges that were working on these cases. And so we had to make sure that we properly reviewed all the documents, because in a foreclosure area, you're talking about tons of documents that needed to be reviewed. So I established what was known then as the Chancery Division's Judicial Extern Program. And we got the law students to work with us to help us review the documents, particularly the default documents where they were against residential foreclosures. And they provided these young people, an opportunity to work with judges, to learn the importance of paying detailed attention to
Were a lot of
documents.
these externs, or all of the externs, law school students?
They were all law school students. Some of them later on were college students from the Roosevelt University Paralegal School. My colleague Lewis Nixon taught there, and so he was able to get some of them as well. But there were people that were somewhat knowledgeable in the law. The law students we made sure were at least second-year law students. They were a lot knowledgeable in the law, and we also made sure that the people that worked with us were of a diverse background, because we wanted to make sure that we gave diverse students an opportunity to work with the judges, work on these cases, and then at the same time learn, what the court system is all about. And it became very effective. We had a number of students helping us out, and due to their efforts, we were able to help some people save their life, save their homes. Yeah. So that was something that that I did as a circuit court judge. And then as appellate court judge, I recently served as the chair of the appellate court, and we had a number of new justices coming into the appellate court. In fact, we had 5 new justices coming into to the court. So I established a orientation book, a book to help them.
So there wasn't any orientation before for new.
Well, there was an orientation, but we established a book so they could have it right there for their own purposes. And then we had an orientation with some of the other more experienced justices, I should say, in the appellate court, to train these new judges that were coming into the appellate court, because we were having a large number of them coming in. And then also with the Safety Act, once the Supreme Court found that the statute was constitutional, I brought
the
all the
Illinois State Supreme Court, right?
Right, the Illinois Supreme Court. I brought all the stakeholders together, the state's attorney's office, the public defender's office, the presiding judges, the clerks, and the court reporters, to start talking about how to implement this, how we're going to get this to work, and particularly when it comes up to an appeal. And so we made significant changes to the forms and the documents that were going to be recommended to us by the Supreme Court. We made some changes to those, and we sent those changes.
What were the most important changes that you had to make that you felt were?
Well, one of them was in terms of the forms didn't have information about who the judge was that was hearing the the Detention Safety Act process. The other one was the fact that it required that the lawyer who was filing the appeal that they had to have an affidavit that was notarized. Since many of the public defenders still work from home, that would not be feasible. And then also in many of the courthouses in Cook County, we don't have notary publics. So that the recommendation there was to switch it from that type of affidavit to one that's referred to as the 109, which means just that the lawyer is submitting the documents, is aware of all the documents and the information that's contained in the documents, and that suffices. It does the same thing.
It's like a signature instead of a notary signature.
Right? Yes. Yeah. So those are just a couple of things that we but did that not waiting for the problems to appear, but decided to get in there and start making sure that we anticipated some of the problems that would happen.
Do you, in what you're doing now, do you see any thing coming up in the Safety Act that's appearing before you in the courtroom that still needs to be addressed?
Well, we just received our very first appeal, actually this last week. So we'll see. Because we haven't received one yet. I know some of the other districts have, but we just received our very first one.
Okay, and when the slating was happening, are you affiliated with the Democratic Party?
Yes.
So
so I'm running as a Democratic candidate for the Illinois Supreme Court. Yes.
Yes. So when you were going through the slating process, there is that the Latinos and the African Americans, they want a seat in the Illinois Supreme Court, and they want like more of a voice. So when you were being interviewed by the Black African American Ward Committeemen, how did you explain your position to them, and what was their reaction?
You mean when I went around and individually spoke with them?
Yes.
Well, when I went around and individually spoke with many of the committeemen and committee persons and committee women, I presented my credentials. I always got a very warm welcome. Always got a positive feedback. Some of them indicated that they would be supportive of my candidacy. So the conversation was, about my experience, yes, and there was no questions brought up about that. And I should point out that I have been found highly qualified and highly recommended by the bar associations. And throughout my career, I have always been found either qualified or highly qualified for the position that I'm in. And even when I ran for retention, I was found highly qualified. So
what about on Injustice Watch? Because we some of the voters that I know of, and me too, I was using Injustice Watch too, because before I would use the Chicago Bar Association recommendations,
right?
And then somebody told me about the Injustice Watch, so it was it's so many offices to choose from.
Sure.
It's hard to use both of the recommendations at the same time.
Right.
But
and you're right. I mean, I think that the voters, in order to learn about the candidates that are running, particularly for judges, they should be as well informed as possible. And that means looking at the Chicago Bar Association, looking at the Alliance, as well as bar associations. Their recommendations. There's some suburban bar associations that also conduct their own judicial evaluation, and in Justice Watch. I think everybody should read all of those and become informed with regards to the candidates. I have always been they have narratives. So in their narratives, they've always been very supportive of my candidacy.
You mean Justice Watch?
Yeah, and Justice Watch has been very supportive of my candidacy. They haven't submitted anything yet, so I don't know. Hopefully this time around, I will also be supported by Justice Watch. But in the past, anytime that they evaluated candidates, I was always given high marks.
Okay. Are we out of time? Do you have?
Oh yeah, we could include here if you like, and then we could continue on.
Okay,
That's great.
yes, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. First of all, give us some maybe if listeners have further questions or how to contact you, or at least contact somebody who could contact you, and then also if there is some contact information about the diversity scholarship fund too, please include that.
Sure. So for the Diversity Scholarship Foundation, and there's a number of other programs that we have. So if anybody's interested, they could go to our website. We have a website. It's called DSF Chicago. And then we also have an email address, which is dsfchicago@gmail.com. And you could go and check, some of the things that we've done and what we're continuing to do. And then with regards to my campaign, they can contact my campaign coordinator. His name is Xavier Nogares, and he could be found at bocaagency@gmail.com.
Could you spell Boca?
Sure. So it's BOCA ad agency AGENCY @gmail.com.
Okay, thank you so much, Justice Jesse G. Reyes, for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today.
Thank you, Trudy, for having me here.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's so much to learn from you. It's 1 hour is not even enough.
Oh yeah, thank you. Well, we could definitely. I would love to come back.
Okay,